What happens when the world's most admired innovator starts running in place? From the moment that Hammer crashed the screen in the groundbreaking 1984 commercial, the message was clear. Apple is a rule breaker. And in the decade that followed, the company became a symbol of innovation, a cultural phenomenon, and a $3 trillion company. But today, cracks are starting to show. In the last 4 months, Apple stock has dropped 25%. Since the beginning of 2025, nearly $1 trillion in value has evaporated. Things are changing for Apple. Today, we're going to unpack the 3 pillars of Apple's current crisis. My name is Sergey Gorenko and I'm a market researcher, strategist and brand advisor. If you're interested in marketing, strategy and advertising, please go ahead, like and subscribe so you won't miss any of upcoming latest marketing content. Okay, so let's move on to some of the very sobering questions, including: is Apple too big to fail? First things first, I feel it is necessary to mention that I'm a loyal user of Apple products. I'm not an Apple hater and I have a lot of Apple tech. I love the ecosystem, it's so sticky. I enjoy making notes and reminders on my MacBook than seeing everything on my iPhone or iPad. Ecosystem makes switching so painful that it's really hard to imagine how to live without it. But here's the thing, I want something new and innovative, and that is where Apple seems to be falling short. Samsung keeps innovating while Apple is the same for years. So, what exactly is happening over at Apple? The only short answer is a lot. For the first time over a decade, Samsung is gaining real ground on Apple's own backyard in the United States. At the same time that Apple's shares have tanked, Samsung's have surged roughly 30%. Globally, the picture looks even more unsettling. In Europe, iPhone shipments have decreased by 17%. In China, Apple sales dropped 18%, pushing it into third place behind Huawei and Xiaomi, which produce overall the same phones but for cheaper prices. These aren't just numbers, they signal a shift in momentum that Apple hasn't had to face in years. Behind the decline are 3 interlocking problems: innovation fatigue, missed opportunities in AI, and weakening brand identity. Today we're going to look at each of these factors in little more details, but first, let's remind ourselves why Apple is a giant in the first place. Apple's legacy was born from disruption. Just think about it. The iPod rendered our CD players obsolete, erasing the multi-billion-dollar product category virtually overnight. The iPhone, meanwhile, didn't just compete with BlackBerry, it rewrote the rules of what a phone could be, forcing everyone else to rush to catch up. Then came the iPad, which in reality created an entirely new product category. Under Steve Jobs, innovation wasn't about iteration but bold leaps forward. Apple's product didn't just change technology, they changed culture along with it. But under Tim Cook, Apple has perfected a different skill and monetization. He transformed Apple into the world's first $3 trillion company by extracting value from services, accessories, and careful pricing strategies. But critics argue that in the process, the spirit of disruption began to fade. Now the iPhone, which was once a symbol of cutting-edge design, is mocked for looking the same every year. Not only Apple being seen as less as an innovator, but it's being openly mocked after every presentation as just standard. These aren't products for rebel and artists, they are for suburban moms and corporate finance bros. Apple is boring, and that is the big problem. Many agree that the primary culprit behind Apple's backsliding is innovation fatigue. Again, leadership is seen as a major influence here. Under Jobs, design was driven by disruption. Under Cook, critics argue it is driven by share price pressures, and consumers feel it too. iPhone sales are plateauing as people hold on to devices for 3 or 4 years instead of upgrading annually. Then there are those aforementioned drops in sales in Europe and China, once reliable markets that pumped into billions in sales every year. Apple's other hardware tells a similar story. The Apple Watch, once touted as the future of wearables, is in free fall, with sales declining 19% in 2024 alone. How about the Vision Pro, which was once hyped as Apple's bold leap into augmented reality? However, Consumer Reports claim that the device is overpriced, nausea-inducing, and far from mass-market ready. Even die-hard fans see it more as a tech demo than a product that will change their lives. In contrast, Samsung is enjoying a surge in market share thanks to foldable phones like Galaxy Z Flip. This and other models have become status symbol for Gen Z. Why? Because they feel new. Apple hasn't put out anything that feels that way in years, some argue even longer. The investor takeaway is clear. When innovation slows, margins shrink. If Apple can no longer rely on premium allure, it risks being forced into price competition. And Apple, as we all know, doesn't play well as a discount brand. If innovation fatigue is Apple's first problem, AI is its second, and it may be even more urgent. Artificial intelligence is widely seen as the defining technology of the decade. Obviously, people like Mark Zuckerberg and Sam Altman would agree, but where big tech is all in on AI, Apple seems to look like it's holding back. In 2023 and 2024, fans eagerly awaited Apple's AI debut at its WWDC. Instead, they got iterative updates to iOS and macOS, then just silence. It was pretty deafening, and finally, in 2025, Apple unveiled Apple Intelligence, which it promptly declared as revolutionary. The company promised some pretty incredible features too: AI assistant writing, notification summaries, custom Genmoji, photo editing, visual intelligence, and the most important, a complete overhaul of Siri to make her into a proper smart assistant. But the rollout was a disaster. The iPhone 16 launched without Apple Intelligence features at all. Latest software updates delivered buggy notification summaries and delayed Genmoji, and that Siri upgrade, it was pushed back to 2027. As a result, Apple had to pull ads promoting features that did not exist. Meanwhile, the customers who had bought new phones due to the promises of Apple Intelligence felt betrayed. While the rivals kept moving forward without hesitation, Samsung integrated Google's Gemini AI directly into its Galaxy line. Microsoft embedded Copilot into Windows, and Google pushed Gemini Live to millions of users. Apple, by contrast, leaned on ChatGPT integration, effectively outsourcing its innovation to a rival. It wasn't a good look, and both buyers and investors took notice. By the way, if you like what you are hearing so far, please remember to like and subscribe. It's free, it's easy, and it really helps the channel out. Apple's third challenge lies in its brand. Ironically, this is the very thing that it used to leverage to set itself apart. As I mentioned earlier, Apple's Think Different campaign was as much a cultural movement as a marketing decision. Buying an iPhone used to be a symbol of creativity, boldness, and cool. Now it is just a phone. Your grandma is just as likely to pull it out of her purse as a trendy celebrity is. And this isn't the only perceived shift. Apple used to be seen as a premium, but now it is considered as overpriced. In China, that perception has already eroded Apple's dominance, and in the West, it is starting to spread. The marketing misfires aren't helping. Consider Apple's crash ad, in which the company literally crushed pianos, paint cans, and creative tools into a new iPad. What was meant to showcase sleek design instead looked like Apple flattering creativity itself. The backlash was swift, forcing Apple to apologize and pull the ad. For a brand that once embodied culture, that disconnect was telling. For investors, this matters. Apple's premium margins has always rested on perception as well as technological innovation. With both weakening, it should come as no surprise that market dominance is weakening along with them. So, what should Apple do? How can it avoid the fate of once untouchable, too big to fail giants like Nokia, BlackBerry, Kodak, and IBM? Many agree that the first step would be acquisitions. Partnering with or purchasing companies like Perplexity and other AI startups could quickly inject fresh talent into Apple's ecosystem. Waiting for in-house development alone may be too slow. Moreover, some doubt whether they have any more of their secret sauce left. Second, Apple needs to fix its internal AI dysfunction. Reports of siloed teams and slow progress on Siri highlights a deeper cultural issue that could spell doom for the company in the short and long term. First things first, Apple needs to stop the brain drain, retain its top engineers, and give its AI division the urgency and resources they deserve. Number 3. Apple has to deliver on its promises. No more stage demos. If Apple Intelligence is advertised, it needs to work as portrayed. As a wise man once said, the gap between expectation and reality is where loyalty dies. And the higher your price, the harder what you deliver will be scrutinized. Speaking of which, many experts agree that Apple's pricing strategy needs a reset. Samsung succeeds in part because it offers a choice between budget, flagship, and innovative models. Apple's narrow iPhone band of $830 to $1,600 excludes millions of potential customers, especially in emerging markets. Broadening that range could help protect market share. And number 5, the design is boldness again. Apple needs its next iPhone moment. It needs a product that iterates and redefines. This may involve taking risks, but if this risk is successful, Cook and company may be able to protect their market share for years to come. And finally, the brand itself needs a reset. By this we mean that Apple should stop chasing defensive ads and return to leading cultural conversations. For starters, maybe the company that told us to think different should remind us why. Apple is still one of the strongest companies in the world. This has a lot to do with the fact that its ecosystem is so sticky. It also helped that its brand recognition is unmatched and the balance sheet is enormous. Really want to see something new and truly innovative at Apple's upcoming event in September 2025. Otherwise, Apple needs to remember that history is filled with giants that seemed invincible until they weren't. So, while Apple's crisis is not terminal, it is real, and if it can't reclaim its innovative soul and encourage the rest of us to do the same, the company may learn a very hard truth: nobody is too big to fail. My name is Sergey Gorenko, market researcher and brand advisor. If you like the content, please push that like and subscribe buttons and leave me a comment in the section below. Thanks a lot for watching and see you in the next videos dedicated to strategy, advertising, and great companies.